Do you remember Kate Cox? She dominated the headlines in December last year when the state of Texas, where she lived, prevented her from obtaining an abortion, even as her life was in danger and her future ability to have children was at risk. The state required her to carry a fetus that she deeply wanted, but that had a fatal abnormality. She sued the state, and even in the face of repeated emergency room visits and evidence that her life was in danger, Texas said no. She had to leave the state to obtain her life-saving medical care in the form of an abortion. Now, Kate Cox is back in the news because she will be the guest of First Lady Dr. Jill Biden at Thursday's State of the Union address. And I want to read briefly from the Texas Tribune on this decision to invite Kate Cox to the State of the Union address. Quote, "Her story is incredibly powerful, devastating," said White House spokesperson Karine Jean-Pierre in a press briefing Wednesday. "And it speaks to the moment that we are in now, when we talk about women having the right to make these deeply personal decisions about their health care that was taken away by the Supreme Court." Cox is the first pregnant adult to sue for the right to terminate her pregnancy since Roe v. Wade was decided by the U.S. Supreme Court in 1973. I so admire Kate Cox. It took a lot of courage for her to share her story, to sue the state of Texas, and she continues to demonstrate great courage and strength and her vulnerability in sharing her story with the media, even now. This time she sat down with Dana Bash from CNN with her husband Justin by her side and discussed the ways that the abortion ban in Texas amplified their pain, made their situation more difficult, and how it informed their thinking about the upcoming election.
When we got the devastating diagnosis, I asked my doctor, what do women do when they receive a diagnosis like this? And she told me some women choose to continue the pregnancy and some choose not to. And I asked her if that was an option in Texas, if I chose not to do the pregnancy, and she told me it was not.
So you filed a lawsuit, and the court granted the restraining order on the law saying that you could legally obtain an abortion and that you would not be at risk for driving your wife, that the doctor would not be at risk. But then the next day, the Texas Supreme Court temporarily blocked the decision. What were those days like?
Well, when we got the ruling from the judge, we were excited and hopeful. We thought, wow, maybe everybody will see the common sense that comes with this issue like we do, that this is medical care. It was a very upsetting dynamic and range of feelings with that, going from hopeful to feeling like, okay, this isn't going to be as easy as we thought,
It was really crushing. Pregnancies are complicated, and it's difficult sometimes to build your family, so it's really terrifying when that's left up to politicians and judges.
You did make the decision to travel outside of Texas. You went to New Mexico to have an abortion. Mm-hmm. Tough decision.
Yeah.
Well, we were on a strict timeline, and we couldn't wait any longer, so the decision had to be made.
It's the hardest thing we've ever been through in our lives. And the laws today added a lot more pain to what was already the most painful time in our lives. That's why I want to share our story, and that's why I hope it'll be different one day.
Abortion has always been a very political issue, even more so since Roe was overturned. Were you a particularly political couple, or were you a political person before this?
Not at all. I was not a political person.
We both have voted in the past, but we've never been very enthusiastic about the process.
And you are now?
Yes. We certainly are now. Yeah.
I'm guessing you're going to vote for Joe Biden?
The number one thing we're both voting for is protection of abortion rights, because women and families deserve medical care. I don't want to see others continue to be hurt. How many women have to tell their most heartbreaking journey publicly? How many have to speak out before something changes?
The number one thing they're voting for is protection for abortion rights. And I love that line about how many women have to tell their stories before something changes, because we see this all the time. Women having to share their traumas, open up the details of their lives in order to push for change, whether it's Me Too or abortion. Kate Cox is taking the stand to help prevent this pain and suffering in the future. But this pain is happening across the country right now. Women are being forced to carry babies they do not want or cannot care for. Not everyone can afford to simply leave the state to obtain care. Some people don't have savings. They can't take time off work. They don't have reliable transportation or childcare. There are multiple barriers to obtaining this care in states with abortion bans. And this is why it's so important to, if you can, support abortion funds or organizations like the National Abortion Federation, who runs the National Abortion Hotline, where people can call and get evidence-based information about how to obtain an abortion, even in states where it's banned. And this hotline also assists with funding for the procedure or travel to obtain the procedure. This issue is not going away, and people still need help. Democrats will surely need to keep this issue of abortion front and center, especially as Donald Trump makes his nebulous statements about the abortion bans that he's thinking about. Things can always get worse, and we need to remember that.